Hello, friends. I am Gwen Yi, and welcome back to whatever the fuck this is. It has been a while since I've shown up here. I really miss using my voice and connecting with all of you. For those who are new to my work, I used to be known as the Asian Astrologer. And my job essentially was as a cosmic weather reporter. I would pump out horoscopes and almost like these weekly newsletters about what was going on in the cosmos. And as we know, this is a pretty activating cosmic time. We just had the new moon in Cancer, and we have the basket coming up with all of the outer planets aspecting each other. And I feel like astrology for me has become one of those things where it's just like humming in the background of my life. I no longer feel a desire to speak about it to the masses, which is also why I had to evolve my brand away from astrology. So this is probably the most off the cuff that you will see me. I am in my new home. I deliberately took off the blur background effect so you get to see me in my space, in my sanctuary. And what I really hope for this to be is to give a platform to my voice where I can literally just speak off the cuff about whatever that is pertinent for me that week, kind of like a vlog, but without all the visuals. And this is an experiment to see if this is enough to grow my audience. The reason for this is in human design, which I have surprisingly gotten into since kind of like putting astrology a little bit on the back burner. My human design has three channels, all connecting the different parts of me to to my throat center. And since graduating from the magician's table, where essentially every week we would gather and have 6 minutes to just speak on whatever that we, you know, whatever that is true for us that week. I've really missed the practice of honing my voice. And so I'm wondering if I don't have to see running a podcast or a talk show as this huge administrative thing, but rather a commitment from myself and therefore to you to just show up here authentically and speak on whatever that is most deep and true on my heart and trust that that would actually go on to touch other people. What would come out of this experiment? Mm. This is a very low stakes way of finding out. And so I'm here. What's up? Let's do this. So, what's new? I just had a podcast interview with Olivia Lara Owen. She is the coach that kind of kickstarted this whole new era for me in November last year on the new moon in Scorpio. I had this kind of like download that I was jealous of my own clients. And that kind of like shook me because I was like, what? What do you mean? And when I kind of dug into it further, I realized that specifically I was envious of my clients' ability to invest in themselves. And it's kind of a weird catch 22 because I've always been in the position of the holder, right? So I am the founder, I am the older sister, I am the facilitator, the empathy trainer, and then the astrologer. It was very rare for me to be on the other side. But when I experienced that, it completely changed my life. It helped me see, probably for the first time, that I am someone worth investing in. And maybe you find yourself in a similar position where you're like, yeah, I'm worth investing in. But it's so much easier, honestly, to put the vulnerability on hold, put it aside, and kind of just, you know, hope and trust that through servicing other people, you too will find the nourishment you need. But from this experience, I found that it's actually the other way around. And probably so then the second update would be since working with Liv, I've kind of taken a break from work. Like I haven't actively made sales or offered any kind of offering for the last 7 months. And it's scary for sure for the first time in my 10 years of self-employment to be kind of like living off my savings. But it's also been strangely liberating because that space has allowed me to kind of immerse in a level of self-work that there was absolutely no way I would have ever accessed if I had still been on the grind. And I'm not saying that everyone has to do this, but I would say specifically if you are in a season like me where you are on the cusp. You are on the cusp of your new era, but you know that saying, where you've been can take you where you want to go or whatever. Like, I literally needed to break the pattern of not investing in myself, not giving myself enough time, not nourishing myself, so that I could form this almost like cocoon where I could simply disintegrate. It was like a chrysalis. I was turning into goo like a butterfly, you know? Butterflies like caterpillars don't just magically become butterflies, they become goo in the chrysalis first. And that's what where I've been for the past few months because the other update is I broke my foot. Yeah, I broke my foot in April, so kind of like halfway through this journey. And that really forced me to slow all the way down because when I was doing the work with Liv, this was like November into March. I was still very much like trying to balance both worlds. Like I was trying to keep my life status quo while also trying to do this deep work. And of course, I did do deep work with Liv, but the imposed solitude of breaking my foot and like really just, this is it. This is the space that I'm in 24/7. You know, if I don't like how I'm living my life, I have to clean that shit up. Like I only have my life as the proof, as the demonstration of the depth of work that I have been doing. Does that make sense? And so, in going deeper into myself, I realized what was truly kind of like missing from how I want to live my life. And so, instead of approaching my work and business from what do I need to do to make money, I'm now seeing it as this is how I want to live my life. How can I build a business that actually like supports that instead of the other way around? And so let's talk about my favorite part, which is so then how do I want to live my life? And in human design, I have found out that my conscious sun is gate 5, line 5, so 5.5. And essentially what this means is gate 5 is the gate of patterns and rhythms. Someone HD expert correct me if I'm wrong. And my understanding of that is literally the work that I have been doing, which is figuring out what are, number one, the natural rhythms of my life. And then number two, what are the natural rhythms of life in general? Like, um, so for part A, the rhythms of my life, I've realized as a woman with ADHD, I can't eat the frog first thing in the morning. Mm-mm-mm. I can't wake up and like straight away just jump into a client call or some kind of obligation because that literally like kills every sense of like satisfaction inside of me. I need to kind of like almost putter about for however much time I need at the start of my day so I can make my coffee, I can make, my little breakfast. I can just take my time to nourish myself first and let my crazy thoughts roam. And then I'll get usually an insight, like an aha, which is what happened today. It's like, almost 2 p.m., right? And I had the insight to, you know what? I've been really feeling like using my voice these days. Let me just do this, whatever this is. And that's pretty much how I've been living my life. But how I know that this works for me is that I have done more deep work. So I've refurbished my entire website. I have built new systems for my business. I have identified, what exactly I want to do. And I even like held myself through that whole Asian Astrologer to I and Gwen Yi rebrand. Like there's so much that's been happening behind the scenes that I have had the energy and capacity to show up to because I follow my own rhythms. So I think this is something I probably want to talk about more and let me know if this is something that, is interesting to you because I find that, yeah, like this is something that I feel quite passionate about because nobody taught me. Nobody taught me. I genuinely thought we all had to be a part of that fucking 5 a.m. bro club, you know, where we wake up and we grind and hustle. And yes, of course, we know that as women, we have our own cycles and shit. Yes, that's true. But I've realized that every human being has our own rhythms and cycles. And we need to honor that. We need to give ourselves space and time to experiment with what that is and what works best for us. Part A. And so part B, the actual rhythms and cycles of life. Okay, quick side note. I refractured my foot. I broke it in April and I was like extremely careful, but then I kind of outsourced that knowing to the internet. And I read that, okay, by the 12-week mark, aka 3 months, it should be fully healed. I was like, okay, it's not hurting anymore. And so even though I was 1 week out, just 1 week out from my x-ray that was delayed, Mercury retrograde, I ended up going for a walk on a Sunday night and then it started to rain like it just like the skies opened up and so I ran home like I ran downhill home and I was like, oh, this is so cool, I can run again. Girl, because when I did the x-ray like a couple days later, the doctor was like, oh, it seems like you have a second minor refracture. And I was like, oh my God. And now it's like probably 6 months until it's fully healed, you know? I set my healing back. But, and yes, that definitely made me grieve. And, I had to work through a lot of that fear for a few days. But now looking at this incident is such a visceral reminder of life takes the time it takes, you know? Like, cycles, the cycles of time. How long does it take to birth a human? How long does it take to grow a tree? How long does it take for a seed to sprout roots? These are things that are actually out of our control. And this foot, like this bone healing business, this is my first time breaking a bone. Like, this is also completely out of our control. Of course, we can do things like improve our nutrition. I've been drinking collagen every day. Like, we can do things that can help. But ultimately, these cycles, we can't really do much. And so it was such a visceral reminder for me of like, yeah, like I have this instinctive idea of what, like how much time something takes, you know? And so then specifically, how can we grow our internal capacity to be able to hold ourselves through the waiting, hold ourselves through the season, through the woods, as I call it, that kind of like liminal in between space where you feel lost, you feel scared, you feel like you don't know where you're going, just like me with my foot, or like me with, this evolving business. Like, yes, I'm kind of like on the other side of it. But when I was in it, when I was in the damn chrysalis, when I was in the damn forest, when there's no light to guide my way, and it feels so scary because I genuinely don't know if things will ever get better, like that is a skill. That is a muscle that we can build. How do you hold yourself through that? And it's so meta. But like after 10 years of self-employment and entrepreneurship and building and rebuilding and breaking down and, businesses, like I realize this is a skill I have cultivated that perhaps is time that I share with the world. So that feels pretty complete. Thank you for listening to this transmission about where I'm at, how things have been, and this idea that all of us have our own rhythms in life, and you, the future you, the new era you, the you that you are becoming, you are worth waiting for. You are worth nourishing. You are worth experimenting for. You are worth designing your life around. If this is something that is interesting to you, please drop it in the comments and let me know. And let me know if you want to see more of this. Like, what should I talk more about? I have an open ajna and an open head. So I get a lot of inspiration from your ideas and your questions. Let's try to keep this going. I think once a week on, Mercury Day, Wednesday is a good cadence for me to do things like this. And if you want to hear more from me, definitely check out that episode from me and Liv about learning to reclaim and trust your whole self. Also available on Substack, Spotify, and YouTube. All right. Take care, everybody. I love you so much. Drop me a comment. Bye.